Hi, my name is Tim Bale and I'm co-director of the Myelin Institute at Queen Mary University of London. Welcome to our series of videos by my friend and colleague Professor Sophie Harman of the School of Politics and International Relations at Queen Mary. In this video, Sophie is going to be looking at the WHO, the World Health Organization, which has been in the news an awful lot recently for obvious reasons, and not least for its suggestion that countries should test. The WHO, however, hasn't always been quite as high profile, nor indeed as popular as it seems to be at the moment. And Sophie is going to be looking at why that might have been the case and whether COVID-19 represents the chance for the WHO to really increase its popularity and its profile. Hope you enjoy the video. If you did, please share it and please come back for more.
Hello, I'm Sophie Harman. I'm a Professor of International Politics at Queen Mary University of London, where I teach and conduct research into global health politics. Now, about 4 or 5 years ago, you could not move for criticism of the World Health Organization, the WHO. There were academic articles demanding reform of the institution. I seem to mark hundreds of student essays talking about this. There was long-term commentary pieces. There were consultants drafted in to try and reform the institution. And a lot of this came off the back of Ebola in West Africa, where people thought that the WHO had acted too late, and when they did act, provided too little. It also spoke to wider issues of reform that had been going on within the WHO and an internal structure to work out how the WHO could respond better to contemporary global health problems. There was also an issue of financing in the WHO. So without going into too much detail, the WHO is funded by assessed, that's what member states give them, and voluntary contributions. So what member states and non-state actors want to provide the WHO with in addition to this kind of core assessed budget. Now the problem the WHO has is this assessed contribution, which should really make up the majority of its budget, actually only accounts for less than a quarter of its budget. Now this makes it really difficult for the WHO to plan because effectively, because the majority of its budget is voluntary, it ends up doing what those voluntary contributions want it to. So it's in a really sticky position here. It doesn't really know exactly how to manage these two issues. In addition to that, the WHO had institutional rivalries with other key global health actors taking responsibilities for certain things, and a general sense that the WHO wasn't really fit for purpose. It had a perennial problem where what it wanted to do was invest in and strengthen health systems around the world to provide universal health coverage for all, yet was always stuck in this position of having what we call vertical health interventions, so very health specific, whether that's malaria, polio, tuberculosis, HIV/AIDS. So we had lots of tensions therefore happening, and it really didn't seem that the WHO would be able to get its act together. The result of this was people were shifting financing away from it, and there was a real risk that the WHO was going to end up being hollowed out. Lots of people are like, what's the point of it if it doesn't even provide its core functions? However, fast forward 5 years, everyone now seems to be talking about the WHO in really positive terms. Everyone seems to have a lot of love for the WHO again. In response to the COVID-19 outbreak, everyone is seeming to advocate for states to follow and listen to the WHO. So whether this is the demand to test, and how that is key to driving down the epidemic, or looking for the technical expertise that the WHO has, it seems to have really shored up its footing in this way, and is now regarded as really the central global actor in the response. Now some of you might think, well of course it's the central global actor in the response, but again, 5 years ago people were really questioning this because of the ability to the WHO to respond to outbreaks like Ebola, like Zika. So why do we explain this? How can we explain this? How can we explain that the WHO has suddenly come so relevant? Well, The first is kind of obvious, really. We're in the middle of a major pandemic. So if the global health institution isn't playing a major role, then we have a real problem within global health. But it's a bit more than that. It's not only that we need the WHO, so it's not perfect, but it's the technical expert we have. We are now believing in the power of the international health regulations, see my first video, and also this wider architecture of states coming together to work within the institution. In recent years, we've also seen the WHO be quite effective in responding to outbreaks. This is particularly the case at the moment with Ebola in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the DRC, which so far is still Ebola-free. So the WHO has sort of stepped up its game in global health security in this way, in the sense that it's now been able to regain the confidence of the wider global health community. Another issue is it's not actually afraid to be political anymore. So like most United Nations agencies, the WHO is always really keen to say it's a non-political actor. It respects state sovereignty, it's made up of member states, but it's non-political. Now, as someone who works in international politics, of course we know that's nonsense. Any institution that says it's not political is probably the most political institution that you're going to look at. But I understand why they have to say this. You can't pick favourites, you can't pick certain political ideologies. So this has kind of created a bind of WHO that in the past has been really sensitive about calling out or criticising member states in any way. However, you do see a slight change in this. So with health concerns related to the Yemen conflict, WHO has been a real kind of outspoken advocate to get wider attention for these issues. And in recent years, with the increase of measles, particularly in Europe, and some of the kind of populist underpinnings driving that increase in measles, WHO again has really walked a very delicate line in being critical about this, about the urgency around it, whilst also respecting member states. Now, in part, this is due to Tedros. I mean, a man now who's so famous, you just use his first name. So Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, the Executive Director of the WHO. Now, Tedros is quite a special Director General in that he has a political background. He has a health background, so he understands health issues, but he was also Minister of Health for Ethiopia. So he knows how to play politics. Sometimes he gets this wrong, so when he was first appointed, he did appoint Robert Mugabe, ex-president of Zimbabwe, as a special ambassador for health, but he quickly just realised what a mistake he made when that happened, and that's now in the past and we will not mention it again. But otherwise, he's been extremely effective at responding quickly and taking a real high-profile presence on the world stage, which has really, I suppose, built trust again within the World Health Organization and sort of people seeing it's taking a leadership role. Now, of course, leadership is not just about individuals, and key to Tedros really securing the WHO's role has been working in partnership with states and other institutions within the UN system, and crucially, and this is really big for global health, building wider networks within the epistemic communities in global health. So whether that is your medical journal editors, civil society organisations, experts in key institutions, this is always going to be vitally important for an institution's power and recognition. And he's been pretty good at doing this. So really, you see the WHO learning the lessons from the past. So that 5 years ago when I couldn't walk around for people criticising the WHO, to now that everyone's saying, listen to the WHO with COVID-19, it knows what it's talking about. So COVID-19 really is an opportunity for the WHO to re-establish itself as the leader in global health security that everybody thinks it is.